Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today, and welcome back. A little bit later than we'd like to be here, but we had an OBS crash at the final minute, so we had to do a forced quit and a restart there. But hopefully we're back loud and clear. Make sure you can hear us. Let me know in the chat if there's a problem, unless you can hear us. Hopefully, what's going on? Great to see you coming across on the fruited plains. Hello, my friends. What a beautiful Monday it is, and welcome back. I hope your weekend was outstanding. Shout out to all the good fathers out there. Hopefully, you had a great time celebrating and spending time with your loved ones. We got some serious business to attend to today. We had a bunch of stuff happen over the weekend, including an assassination of two individuals out, and two additional were shot over in Minnesota. And we got the criminal complaint that is now out, and we're going to go through it. So a quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll zoom in for further detail. But here you can see justice.gov dropped this, and then I pulled all of the various criminal documents that have now been filed today. And so we'll go through these. You see, we have this juicy criminal complaint affidavit here from Terry Getch, who is over at the FBI. And he's walking us through exactly what happened here. So we got some weird stuff. This all just got filed today. We'll go through it together. More camera footage, it looks like, of another official. We got police vehicles, lots of photos. So we'll spend some time on this. We got some documents in here. And we'll get into it. Volume's a little bit low. Let me boost this up a bit. All right. How's this coming? We also had a slight power outage, so some of our settings are reset. Let me bump this up. Bump that up a bit. Let me see that. Is that a little bit better? Hang on a second. All right, test, test, test. Bump those numbers up. How's that? Is that a little bit better? Let's see. Hopefully that's a little bit better right there. 10-4, 10-4, coming in, coming in. All right, we also had a power reset, so all my settings are whoop. So it's just been a Monday. It's a great Monday. But all right, so we got this. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, or not so cool stuff, but we're going to go through it because we want to learn what happened here. Here was the mask. Some people were saying it was Walter White over from Breaking Bad, but I don't know if that's it or not. But anyways, we'll go through it. Bunch of good documents to unpack. We also have a new continuance that has been filed here by Vance's defense attorney. So he's got a public defender. They're asking for more time, saying we need to review the serious nature of these allegations and unpack a lot there. So we'll see what happened today. They should have had a hearing right now. The last we checked before we hit the Let's Go Live button, we did not see any recent updates, but we'll hit the refresh before we're done on that and get the latest on what's happening with Vance Butler from Minnesota. Then we're going to turn our attention over to Trump's declaration of war on the sanctuary cities that are percolating all across our country. And we're going to go through this True Social post that the president posted and then go through some reaction to this because he's saying, all right, sanctuary cities, you're priority number one. We have priorities and we can focus on certain things with higher priority than other things. And so we're going to focus on the sanctuary cities, these little bastions of illegality, and a lot of reaction to this, including from Secretary Duffy saying, if you want to burn your cities down, don't call us. We're not going to pay for a damn thing. So we'll go through it. I got quick updates on backdoor judge case. We've also got the Mahmoud Khalil short updates on a couple of these immigration cases we'll talk through. And then Tom Cotton also wrote this op-ed. Now, he was getting castigated over this from, I don't really care, Margaret. And Margaret got shut down by Tom Cotton. We'll come back on that one. We've also got some other reaction from people like this who are out there. They can't even swing. I guess that's like a pole or something. I don't know if it's a bat or what they've got. But we'll make fun of these people because we also had this cowboy representative show up. And they're talking about impeaching Trump. All right, so nice looking group of folks there for the Democrats. All right, we'll come back on that. Then in our final segment, we'll talk about Tishy Lay Tish because now she's investigating or wants to investigate, actually is investigating her own cops, her own police department. She wants to know why they're cooperating with President Trump. And so she sent a letter over to the sheriff's office saying, it looks like you're cooperating with ICE. Maybe we should investigate you. And we'll see what the feds do about that. Since, of course, Andy Biggs is saying when you are housing illegals and obstructing the feds, you're breaking federal law. And so we'll go through that. Lots of interesting clips, including from this mayor, who I think is now, oh yeah, this was fun. He's now saying investing in blacks is not a criminal act. I think I got that right. So we got rhymes coming up, man, courtesy of Mayor Johnson. Investing in black is not a criminal act. Just get used to saying it because it's coming up. So we got that. Then we've got this large Democrat out in California who is also passing a law with Weiner, that representative over there, this guy over here on the right. And so we'll see what they're up to and what Marsha Blackburn has to say. Harmeet Dillon responding to this. And there was a homicide over the weekend where some so-called, it's not funny, Rob, some so-called peacekeeper who was at one of these events shot and hit an innocent person and killed him. And the judges in LA just think it's all normal, mostly peaceful protest, and just relax. It's much ado about nothing. And so we got a bunch of good business to attend to today, my friends. Thank you for cooperating with our technical difficulties. We appreciate that. And we'll try to work those kinks out for the remainder of the show. Let's see. Checking some feedback. Volume's low on Rumble. Well, I have one volume feed, so hopefully it's good or clears up over there. Here, I can boost it another smidge. I just don't want to go crazy because we're getting close to the red lines up there. All right, so we'll just hit it one more time with a little nudge. All right. Now, let's get to business, my friends. So we had a great members-only stream this morning. Thank you to our members who joined us this morning. We have a great members-only community. If you're looking for a place to catch, another set of streams, join us in the mornings. We go live 9 a.m. Pacific right now, 12 noon Eastern. We go live for about an hour, sometimes more. It's a little bit more low key. We talk about a bunch of other things, and we have a great community. Really a lot of fun. It's a little lower, slower pace, so we get to know each other and take comments, and it's a great time. So come join us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to join on Locals, or just click the Join Now button on YouTube, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Members Only morning stream. All right, so now, without any further ado, let's get in to business on the day. Here we have an arrest and criminal charges have now occurred and been filed against Vance Butler, the man allegedly wearing this mask, as he approached politicians' homes at 7 a.m. in the morning or so and shot and killed them without any prior warning or cause. And he has now been criminally charged in a criminal complaint, not indicted yet. We've got two sets of criminal cases that are being prosecuted against this guy. One is from the state level court and one is from the federal level court. This one just got dropped by the feds. And it has now been publicly released since they got this guy in custody. There was a long manhunt to try to track this guy down. They finally got him, and here we are. So we're going to go through this, and obviously there's some pretty interesting details that we'll unpack together. But we also saw the official press release came out from the Department of Justice, and here's what they posted today. And Pam Bondi also shared about this. She said, "We have filed federal charges for stalking and murder against Vance Butler. Now, if convicted, he will face severe and comprehensive justice for his horrific crimes." And the DOJ submitted this, saying, Vance Butler, of 57 years of age, of Green Isle, Minnesota, has now been charged by federal complaint, not indictment yet, but he'll be indicted, with stalking and murdering of the Melissa House of Representatives Speaker of the House, Amaretta Melissa Hortman, and her husband, in addition to stalking and shooting Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Now, according to court documents, in the early morning hours of June 14th, Vance Butler put into effect a calculated plan to inflict fear and violence upon Minnesota elected officials, equipped himself with firearms, disguised himself as a law enforcement officer, drove to the home of Senator Hoffman, knocked on the door repeatedly, claiming to be a police officer. Shortly after the Hoffmans opened the door, they were alarmed to realize Butler was wearing a face mask. The Hoffmans tried to close the door, but he repeatedly shot both of the senator and his wife, saying, and this is what Pam Bondi said, "The horrific targeted murders of Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, as well as the shooting of John Hoffman and his wife Yvette, have shocked the nation. These horrific acts of violence will not go unanswered. The DOJ will prosecute this suspect to the fullest extent of the law, and if convicted, deliver severe consequences for his crime." So, now, according to the charges, the defendant had a list of possible targets and went to the homes of public officials to conduct the violent attacks. This type of violence is unacceptable. Lots of statements here from everybody else, but they give us a little bit of details. Of course, we'll parse through that in the criminal complaint itself. So 2 documents here at the outset. You see, this is the case filed against filed by the United States of America against Vance Luther Belter or Butler or Bolter. We'll call it Vance Butler or something. Now, the United States has charged him. Now, count 1 is, this is just the criminal charges. We'll follow this up with the affidavit, which is where the more juicy details are. You see here, on or about June 14th, in the District of Minnesota, Vance, the defendant, with the intent to kill, injure, harass, and other things, electronic communication, placed under surveillance. This is use of interstate facilities for count 1. So lots of kind of repetitive language in there. Butler used a GPS navigation system. He used interstate wires and he used the internet to plan and carry out the stalking and the shooting and the elimination of Melissa Hortman and Mark Hortman, all in violation of the law. Count 2, also use of interstate facilities, saying he used the same thing to carry out the stalking and the shooting. Looks like a second victim here, John, right? So kind of the same thing, but for someone else. Melissa Hortman, John Hoffman, Melissa Hortman for the murder, count 4, and the murder of Mark Hortman. Count 5, the shooting of Melissa and Mark, both firearms offenses, and the shooting of John and Yvette Hoffman, again, both firearms offenses, explaining the details of every charge, signed by the special agent of the FBI, Terry A. Getch. And Terry also submitted the affidavit where he explained the basis for each of those 6 counts. And that is what this looks like. So, in follow-up, Terry Getch writes, "I am special agent of the United States DOJ FBI, and I have been employed since 2018. I am currently assigned to the Minneapolis field office under the Violent Crime Squad, where my investigative responsibilities include the criminal investigations of federal violent crimes. Now, prior to my assignment in Minneapolis, for 4 years, I was in Seattle, and I investigated violent crime in Indian country and other FBI firearms-related crimes. I've completed the FBI Academy, Indian Country Basic Investigators Training, Georgia's Peace Officer Academy, and more. And was employed as a municipal police officer, shout out to our local cops, and detective in the state of Georgia, Fannyland. Before Fanny came into Fannyland. You probably saw that coming. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I am an investigative or law enforcement officer. I'm allowed to make arrests, and I make this affidavit saying that Vance is now being charged with the various counts, all 6 that we talked about previously. Here's the probable cause statement. Now, as described below, FBI agent Terry says, Vance embarked on a planned campaign of stalking and violence designed to inflict fear, injure, and kill members of the Minnesota state legislature and their families. After taking deliberate steps to research his victims and prepare for that campaign, Butler traveled to the homes of at least 4 public officials during the early morning hours of June 14th. And we originally thought it was just 2. And so what happened with those other 2 locations? Disguised as a police officer and heavily armed with firearms and body armor, Butler approached these official homes under the guise of lawful authority. That morning, he murdered 2 people and seriously injured 2 others. Now, evidence uncovered in this investigation indicates that Butler extensively planned his stalking, murders, and attempted murders. As discussed below, his preparation efforts included identifying several websites that allow users to search for personal information of others, like home addresses and family member names. He also made lists containing the names and home addresses of many Minnesota public officials, mostly or all Democrats. And By the way, that document looks like it has been released by this woman called Liz Collin. Liz Collin reports over for alphanews.org and has a heavy focus on Minnesota. And they got their hands on the list. She said, just in, the contents of Vance Butler's hit list have been provided to Alpha News. More than 60 Democrat leaders appear on it, along with abortion clinics. This is a typed version that was distributed to law enforcement and is not the original copy, right? So they just typed this up. They said, hey, go check on all these people because this dude was on a list. So all these names are on there. You know, none of them would stand out. They look like they're all local people. But you look at this. This is an author and philanthropist, Mackenzie Scott. Sharon Belton, former Minneapolis mayor. State of the Arts Center, someone from Iowa, Planned Parenthood. Liz Bolden. And a bunch of other names were all on that list. So, right, this gets distributed to the cops. And so they're all going, holy moly. Keith Ellison, right, some bigger names. He's the attorney general out there. Some others, Duluth. The whole list has now been published, right? So all these, public officials and the names have been redacted. But this is what law enforcement is sharing around and has now worked to protect those individuals on that list. Now, he found websites that sold hyper-realistic silicone masks, which look like the mask that he was wearing during, at least, his shooting of Hoffman, a senator in the Minnesota State Senate, and his wife. He also purchased the materials from Fleet Farm for use in his shootings, including flashlights and resources that could be used to create a type of fake police license plate found on the back of his SUV. Now, he drove that SUV to the home of the House of Representatives Speaker, Emerita Melissa Hortman, where he shot and killed her and her husband. Now, as described below, he undertook these acts and others in preparation for and in furtherance of the intent to kill, right? This is premeditated murder. And in the state courts, he's also been charged here with basically second-degree murder, not premeditated. And my understanding is, according to this commenter, people were saying, why is he only being charged with second-degree murder, not premeditated? And somebody responded here that in Minnesota, and I'm not licensed there, I know others are, maybe Nick Ricada, but they say Minnesota law requires a grand jury indictment for first-degree murder. So they can't actually hit him with a first degree yet. So those charges will come back down later. And this happens all the time, just to be clear. So these are criminal complaints right now that we're reading. And these are written by FBI agents or cops, sheriff's office. They all write the criminal complaint, submit it, just enough to get probable cause. But they don't rely on that basis alone as the case progresses through the court system. What happens right now, they're all scrambling to get a grand jury impaneled to present the evidence to them so that the grand jurors can then indict the person, and then they'll substitute, basically, they'll take it from there based on the indictment. And if you have a criminal complaint, as a defense attorney, you get some other defenses. You get a right to a preliminary hearing, and you can go and cross-examine that officer, and there's more defenses. And so you take that away from the defense by going and indicting them. And so this is just enough right now to hold this guy in custody, right? So the state charges dropped, same charges you'd imagine, second-degree murder for 2 counts for the 2 dead people, and then there will be more that will come later down the line. But so here in Minnesota, here was the attempted murder of the state senator, John Hoffman, saying, in the early morning hours of June 14th, Vance drove in a black SUV equipped with law enforcement-style emergency lights to the home of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman in Champlin, Minnesota. Video footage from the Senator Hoffman's home depicted Vance approaching the front door dressed to impersonate law enforcement officer, wearing a black tactical vest and holding a flashlight. He wore a flesh-colored mask covering his entire head. And there it is. And we were talking about this morning on our members-only stream. People were asking, one commenter astutely asked, is this a normal position for a camera? Are you normally looking down on someone? Or is it a ring that might be in the door handle so you can see a more front profile rather than a side profile? And so asking if there's going to be more videos. Now, as shown in the footage, and as described later by multiple members of the Hoffman family, Vance knocked on the door. He shouted repeatedly, "This is the police! Open the door!" In response to the shouting, one or both of the senator and Miss Hoffman answered the door. According to a statement later provided to law enforcement by Mrs. Hoffman, Vance said that there had been a shooting reported inside the house and said, "Do you guys have any guns?" Hoffman responded that there were, but yeah, they're all locked away. Then at some point at the exchange, she realized that Vance, who had been shining a flashlight towards them, impairing their view, was wearing a mask. Upon realizing this, one or both of them told Vance that, "Vance, you're not a real police officer." He responded by saying something like, "This is a robbery." Mrs. Hoffman reported that Senator Hoffman tried to push Vance backward through the front door, at which point Vance shot Senator Hoffman repeatedly. Mrs. Hoffman attempted to shut Vance outside the home by shutting the door on him, but he then shot Mrs. Hoffman repeatedly. At 2:06 in the morning, Senator Hoffman's daughter called 911 to report that her parents had been shot. Law enforcement responded, provided medical aid to Senator and Mrs. Hoffman, who were transported to the local hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. Although they suffered these critical gunshot wounds, they were stabilized. After repeatedly shooting the Hoffmans, Vance traveled to the home of another Minnesota elected representative called Public Official 1. Haven't identified this person yet. In Maple Grove, Minnesota. Video footage from surveillance cameras at Public Official 1's home, and we got a couple press briefing clips later that will come up, but this was asked about repeatedly by the press today during that press briefing. Can you tell us who those people are? They said no from the feds, but they will probably identify themselves later. But they might be a little freaked out right now, saying somebody showed up to their home, repeatedly ringing the doorbell at 2:24 a.m. in the morning, right? So you're just sleeping, ringing on the... He wore a tactical black vest wearing a badge resembling those worn by law enforcement. While ringing the doorbell, Vance loudly said, "This is the police. Open the door. This is the police. We have a warrant." He repeated the command several times. That's what he looks like. Looks like a cop standing outside your door, screaming at you. Knocking on the front door of Public Official home, right? So you see here, there's the mask. There's the fake badge. Looks like he's got a gun. Looks tacticaled up, kind of like you'd expect a cop, maybe a SWAT team bro, who thought that they had a warrant coming in. Got a flashlight. So you don't know. It's 2 in the morning. You just woke up out of bed. Public Official 1 and her family were not at home, and they did not answer the door, so he left. Later that night, local law enforcement in New Hope, Minnesota, learned of the shooting at Senator Hoffman's home. They dispatched an officer to the New Hope home of another Minnesota elected representative, Public Official 2, to conduct a safety check, right? Shout out to those cops. I mean, these cops had that instinct. Just go do a safety check on someone else. Let's just check. At approximately 2:36 a.m., an officer encountered a man now believed to have been Vance, sitting in the driver's side seat of a black SUV, parked down the street from Public Official 2's home. The officer believed that the SUV, which resembled a squad car and was equipped with a blue-style light bar, was in fact a law enforcement officer providing protection for Public Official 2. Wild. So check-in cop comes in. He sees, oh, there's someone else here. It's a cop. Keeping her safe. The officer reported that the individual sitting in the black SUV was a bald white man. He's just staring straight ahead. The officer tried to speak with that man, but he continued staring straight ahead and did not respond. Cop has him. The officer drove the rest of the distance to Public Official 2's residence, saw no signs of distress, and waited there until additional law enforcement joined her. By the time they did, the dark SUV had left the area. All right, so it's a female cop. She walks up to the door. It's like, there's this weird dude sitting here who's not looking at me. Sounds like she knocked on his door, but tried to speak with the man. He's like, "I'm not going to talk to you, lady. Get out of here." She's like, "All right, well, I guess I'll just go check out what else is going on." So then at around 3:30 a.m., about an hour later, local law enforcement, having learned of the shooting at Senator Hoffman's home, then they went to go check on Melissa Hortman in Minnesota. They're just going to go conduct a safety check. They're like, "Oh, crap, somebody shot this person. Let's just go check on everybody in the area. Upon arriving, law enforcement saw a black Ford Explorer SUV parked outside the home. The black SUV resembled a law enforcement squad car and was equipped with police-style lights. Those lights were on and flashing. All the cops were like, looks good to us. So the SUV license plate had been replaced with a fake police license plate that looks like this. Police. Which looks like you printed it on your printer. Law enforcement arriving at the home saw Vance dressed in dark colors and standing near the front door facing the house. They show up, they go, police? The hell is that? And they see this dude over there. Here's an image from law enforcement, either dash cam or body cam, that shows this dude outside the home. Looks like he might have a firearm in his hand, but it's very pixelated, so we can't see it. Moments after their arrival on scene, Vance fired several gunshots into the house as he moved forward, entering the Hortmans' home. In dash cam footage from the scene, moments after Vance fired those shots as he moved into the house, a second set of gunshots can be heard. At the same time, several flashes appear in the entryway windows. About the same time, officers moved forward to the home's front doorway where they saw Mr. Hortman lying on the floor. Law enforcement approached the fallen Mr. Hortman, who had been struck by multiple gunshots, rest in peace, brother, and tried to provide medical assistance. When officers entered the home, they found Hortman representative also suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Officers also found inside the home the family dog that this guy shot. They had to euthanize the dog. So 2 deaths and a dog. Representative and Mr. Hortman both died from their injuries. Horrific. Horrific. Says that Vance then fled the Hortmans' home, leaving behind the 2015 Ford Explorer that was parked outside the house. So ditches his vehicle there. After obtaining a warrant, officers then searched the vehicle. I know from my training, says the special agent, and experience that Ford did not manufacture his 2015 Explorers in the state of Minnesota. Interesting fact that he would know that. Now, officers found evidence tying Vance Butler to the SUV, including a bill for a storage unit with his name on it, which is interesting. So he was not intending to lose that car. Those cops just came upon him and he ditched it. Officers also found the license plate for the SUV that he drove that night. Public records show the SUV is registered to him and to his wife. So it's like a suicide mission. Officers also found approximately 5 firearms in the SUV, including semi-automatic assault-style rifles, as well as a large quantity of ammunition organized into loaded magazines. They also found a medical kit containing wound treatment supplies and several eye masks of the kind that might be worn while sleeping. Here you see a bunch of stuff, lots of cables, firearm there, and some peripherals, stuff in the glove box. Looks like he's got a lot of kind of teched up here. He's got a lot of stuff getting plugged in for radios, perhaps, scanners, GPS, laptops. Don't know exactly what he's doing there, but lots of wires there. And here's another angle. This is from the back seat. Let's move my fat head out of the way. See here? More firearms. It's got some tags down there. And a magazine up here. More cables. Don't know what that is. Set of pliers or some tweezers. So that's inside the vehicle. Interior. Let's see if they give us some more details on what's inside. From the SUV, officers recovered several notebooks full of handwritten notes. Listed among the pages of those notebooks were the names of more than 45 Minnesota state and federal public officials, including Hortman, whose home address was written next to her name. One of those notebooks also contained lists of internet-based people search engines, including True People Search and Spokio and People, P-I-P-L, People Finders, Been Verified, White Pages, Truth Finder, Intellius, Ownerly, U.S. Search, and People Looker. I know from my training and experience as the FBI special agent and other agents involved that these websites aggregate data from various online and offline sources to provide the querying user details about the person and their phone numbers. And so here's what he wrote down. All right, he's searching. Intellia has been verified. Ownerly.com says you need an address. US search. Neighbor who address is needed. People finders. Spokeo. People looker. More over here. True people search. True finder. 3 days free. Need name, phone number, and address. Information.com. Free people search engine. Not free is Spokeo. Not free is people. People finder service, been verified. Just enter a name and a street. Most properties in America are public. County assessor's webpage, online GIS tools, county parcel information database, city websites, county if they own property, yeah. And name, city, all that, addresses, yellow pages, and more, right? So now he's getting a little hotter on the county stuff. So, all right, so was looking them up, trying to identify, last names, if the property's in the husband's name or whatever, and tracking them down. In addition, officers also found a Garmin GPS navigation device in the SUV. The device's trip history included the addresses of Representative Hortman's home in Maple Grove and Hoffman's home in Champlin. The history also included home addresses for at least 2 other state officials that he missed. Upon searching the surrounding area, law enforcement found components of a disassembled Beretta 92 9mm semi-automatic handgun and at least 3 magazines strewn across the ground a few blocks from Hortman's home. Rounds contained in one or more of those magazines bore the same head stamp on the discharge cartridge casings found within or in the immediate vicinity of the Hortman's home. So ditches the gun as he flees. Records accessible to law enforcement indicate this Beretta was purchased by Vance in or about January 2000. So disassembles it, throws it apart, thinks he's like Jason Bourne or something. In the same general area, law enforcement also found a flashlight, a tactical body armor vest, and a mask, all consistent with those that Vance can be seen wearing earlier in the morning, right? So there's the mask that's just ditched there in the woods. It says, according to records obtained by law enforcement, Vance also purchased 3 Beretta handguns as well as other firearms. Then there was a subsequent investigation that led to his apprehension. Law enforcement obtained information to track the locations of cell phones known to be used by Vance and his wife. And we also saw his roommate giving some weird interviews claiming that he was communicating with him via text message. That morning, law enforcement used the resulting data to locate the wife, Mrs. Vance. Mrs. Vance consented to law enforcement searching her phone. The search revealed that at around 6:18 a.m., Mrs. Vance and other family members got a text from Dad. Dad texted the whole family. In that text, Vance, the dad, among other things, said this: Dad went to war last night. I don't want to say more because I don't want to implicate anybody. What the heck? Other family members, who? The kids? Hey, daughters, guess what? Like the guy, and they're just going to say, oh, okay, and help him hide out? Wild. Around the same time, wife received a text message from Vance stating, among other things, saying this: words are not going to explain how sorry I am for this situation. There's going to be some people coming to the house armed and trigger happy, and I don't want you guys around. So just get the kids and leave. Wife consented to the search of her car too. From the car, law enforcement recovered 2 handguns, $10,000 in cash. There were reports that it was $50,000. And passports for wife and kids who were in the car with her at the time. So they're freaked. She's freaked. She probably has no idea what the hell happened. Maybe she does. We'll see. Law enforcement, get the kids, got passports, 10 G's in cash. Where's she going? Where are they going? They have a bug out bag and a getaway place? Law enforcement obtained cell phone location information for multiple phones known to be associated with Vance. That location data led law enforcement to a residence on Fremont Ave in North Minneapolis. Law enforcement also found the same Fremont address in the trip history described above. Now, at the Fremont home, law enforcement encountered and interviewed a man who said he lives at that address. He explained he shares it at least part-time. So they conducted a warranted search of the residence. Officers found a handwritten list of names containing many of those same public officials named in the notebooks and found in the SUV. Officers also found a purchase of a receipt from Fleet Farm dated about June 9th, which documented the purchase, among other things, a tactical flashlight, a tactical rifle case, 2 types of ammo, the materials believed to be used to create the fake police license plate, and more. Law enforcement also found several notebooks containing handwritten notes. These notebooks were in addition to those recovered from the SUV. Among the pages of those various notebooks, officers found listed the names and often home addresses of numerous Minnesota public officials, including Representative Hortman, one who he shot and murdered. Beneath her name, a notation reads, "Married, Mark, 2 children, 11th term." So she's been in there for a while. Mark was the name of her husband. Another notation in one of the recovered notebooks names Hortman, her address, and her spouse again, with the added notation of big house off golf course, 2 ways in to watch from one spot. That is an apt description of the home, which of course backs up to a golf course. Another notebook notation lists 3 websites for companies that sell face masks, similar to the one that he wore. One of those websites describes itself as your premier destination for high-end, hyper-realistic silicone masks. Another of those websites asserts that it set a new standard in hyper-realistic silicone masks. And that looks pretty real, right? Especially if you're waking up 2 in the morning. In the video footage from the area of the Fremont residence, Vance can be seen returning to that residence in the morning after his murder and the shooting of the Hoffmans. So he goes back to that location. According to an interview later conducted by law enforcement with one witness, at 7 a.m. on June 14th, Vance met witness 1 at a bus stop at 48th and Lyndale Avenue. Witness 1 reported to law enforcement that he had no prior connection with Vance prior to meeting him at the bus stop. He said that he had 2 duffel bags with him. Vance asked to purchase an electronic bike from him. After witness 1 agreed, "Yeah, you want this bike? How much?" They together boarded a bus and traveled to his home. So maybe some homeless guy or some guy, traveling around, not homeless obviously, but traveling around in the streets. Hey, yeah, I'll come by it. Let me get the charger. You have it at your house? Okay, I'll come back to your house, get the charger. Arriving at witness 1's residence, then he gets there. He says, "You know what? Can I just buy your Buick? Can I just buy your car?" He says, "Sure. How much?" "A lot, here." Around this time, Vance and witness 1 drove in the Buick to a U.S. bank branch location where Vance withdrew $2,200 from and emptied an account in his name. This case is so weird. Cameras at the U.S. bank captured him wearing a cowboy hat after the murders. He reportedly provided about $900 to witness 1 to complete the purchase. Then around 2:30 a.m. on June 15th, law enforcement received information about a sighting. This dude's riding an e-bike 2 miles northeast of the family home in Minnesota. It looks like him. He's driving around on a bike. 7 a.m. after the shootings, yeah, he goes. He's hopping on a bus. Law enforcement investigated further and discovered the Buick that he had purchased abandoned on Highway 25, close to the location of the reported e-bike sighting. So here is where he lives. Possible sighting of the male on the bike. The Buick's recovered over here, and he's hanging around. Law enforcement approached the vehicle and used a drone to check for explosives or other potential safety concerns. Here's the drone. Little Wally over here, creeping over there. Poor little fella. It's all clear, Wally. You're okay. A search of that vehicle uncovered, among other things, what appeared to be the cowboy hat that Vance wore when captured by the bank security footage, as well as handwritten letter directed to the FBI. What does that say, I wonder? In that letter, the writer, who claimed his name was Dr. Vance, admitted to being the shooter at large in Minnesota involved in the 2 shootings on the morning of Saturday, June 19th. So at approximately 9:10, law enforcement located him. He was in a field in Green Isle, Minnesota, 1 mile from his family residence. Wild. Officers took him into custody 1 mile from the house. Crazy. Based on the foregoing, this guy committed a bunch of crimes, stalking, murder, and many other things, signed by Special Agent Terry Getch of the FBI. Man, and they tracked that dude down. But what a strange story. How come he didn't have more of this planned out? Like, he didn't have extra cash. He didn't drain his bank account of the $2,200 before all this went down? And just waltzing around riding on e-bikes a mile from his house? All right, dude is just probably gone. Now, the public defenders have gotten their hands on the case. They write this coming in from the Federal Public Defender, Office of the Federal Defender, saying, all right, we know he's been arrested. We would like a continuance of all the hearings that you're about to schedule, saying, we now move the court for a continuance of his detention and preliminary hearing to Friday, June 27th, saying he's going to make his first appearance today, and the public defender's office is going to be there. Now, we know we got 14 days, and we should have this soon, but we need a continuance. In the instant case, there is good cause here to continue the detention hearing all the way out to June 27th. The defense team says, Mr. Vance was arrested on the evening of June 15th. He was brought into the federal courthouse around 10:30 a.m. today. He's been charged by criminal complaint with 2 counts of stalking, potential life sentence, 2 counts of murder through death, equals death or life sentence, and minimum 10 years for the other crimes. And so given the serious nature of this, we need additional time to prepare for the detention hearing. And it's not, well, the detention hearing probably will happen, but the preliminary hearing, which is what they also asked for a continuance of, will not. He'll be indicted. The additional time will allow counsel to meaningfully meet with Vance, review the discovery, and investigate accordingly. We've discussed this matter with the government. They don't object to any of that. Signed by the public defenders and asking for a continuance. I'm sure the judge will grant it. So we saw that somebody who was on the list of names has already passed away. Dustin Grage does a lot of great reporting over there in Minnesota, has got the ins on walls and all of what's going on there. He said it's pretty odd that he had this senator on the list because she died of cancer in September. So why would he have a dead person name on the list? But a couple of clips from a press briefing that occurred today. This guy was over with the DOJ. Acting U.S. attorney, his name is Joseph Thompson, gives us some details about what happened as we just discussed.
In the early morning hours of June 14th, Belter went to the homes of 4 Minnesota state politicians with the intent to kill them. Belter first traveled to the home of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman in Champlin, Minnesota. Belter arrived at the senator's home disguised as a police officer. He arrived in a black SUV with emergency lights turned on and with a license plate that read police. Belter wore a black tactical vest and body armor. He carried a flashlight and a Beretta 9mm handgun. He also wore a hyper-realistic silicone mask. Senator Hoffman had a security camera. I've seen the footage from that camera, and it is chilling. Belter knocked on Senator Hoffman's front door and repeatedly shouted, "This is the police, open the door." Senator Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, came to the door. When they opened the door, Belter shined the flashlight in their faces and said there had been a shooting reported in the house. Belter asked if they had any weapons. When Belter lowered his flashlight, which he had shined in their face, they realized that he was not a police officer. They shouted out, "You're not a cop. You're not a police officer." Belter then announced, "This is a robbery," and forced himself into their home. When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Belter out and stop him from entering his home, Belter shot him repeatedly. Belter then shot Miss Hoffman repeatedly. Belter fled the scene, and the Hoffman's daughter called 911. Unfortunately, the Hoffmans survived, although they remain hospitalized.
All right, so we pray for their speedy recovery as well. And there were some other exchanges here. Of course, we read through most of it, so we got the gist of what they talked about. But there were other states also on the list. This came from yesterday's press briefing where we got a little bit more detail than we got today. But they said this guy may not have stopped just there in Minnesota.
That's yet to come.
And people that were on the list, what other, I know there were politicians from Wisconsin on this, what other states were people firing on this?
It was multiple states. I don't have the exhaustive list, but it was multiple states that were on there.
Do you have some states that were on the list?
We can, there's a few, I don't want to say it because it won't be exhaustive, but Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, some others that were on there. There was a variety in Nebraska, Iowa, we've had contact. What I will tell you, and I will not get into any more specifics beyond that, we are in coordination with our federal partners and our fusion centers in those states to coordinate with local law enforcement and the FBI in those states and the state fusion centers that are there to be able to provide that information and notify those individuals that they were on that list.
All right, so good thing that it did not spread to other states, but he's also been charged in state court, so we'll keep our eye on that. But as it stands, this is the docket from the federal court. We just saw the criminal complaint was filed, a motion for continuance dropped. Sure, the judge is going to give everybody some additional time, and we'll keep our eye on this one. I fully expect him to be indicted, and we'll see what his defense looks like. Whether he hires some badass defense team like Luigi Mangione did, or whether he sticks with his public defenders. If there's more to the story, if it's just another crazy person, we'll keep our eye on it. But very interesting case. Shout out to the local cops who responded and engaged that guy before he went to the next house and surely saved some lives. So disgusting stuff out there in Minnesota. We'll keep our eye on it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, so good update there on that horrific story. But now let's turn our attention to the deportations that must happen. And Trump, of course, is doubling down on this one. So let's get to it. Trump declares war on the sanctuary cities, saying we're going to prioritize you people. If you want to obstruct federal enforcement, we'll just double down and we'll come in and clean it up and solve this problem once and for all. Now, he posted this, and it's been followed up by Gavin Newsom and many people screeching from the rooftops, this is a dictatorship, saying, how dare you prioritize one thing above another, but we'll come back on that, and we'll get reaction from Tom Cotton and more, but Trump dropped this, and we couldn't appreciate it more because this sets the tone. This reminds the illegals who are here that there will not be a let up on any of this. So you can self-deport, spare everybody a lot of trouble, and leave. Here's what Trump said. Our nation's ICE officers have shown incredible strength, determination, and courage as they facilitate a very important mission. The largest mass deportation operation of illegal aliens in history. Every day, the brave men and women of ICE are subjected to violence, harassment, and even threats from radical Democrat politicians. But nothing will stop us from executing our mission and fulfilling our mandate to the American people. ICE officers, says the president, are herewith ordered by notice of this truth to do all in their power to achieve the very important goal of delivering the single largest mass deportation program in history. It has been declared. In order to achieve this, the president says, we must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. These and other such cities are the core of the Democrat power center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voter base, cheat in elections, and grow the welfare state, robbing good-paying jobs and benefits from hardworking American citizens. These radical left Democrats are sick of mind, hate our country, and actually want to destroy our inner cities. And they are doing a good job of it. There is something wrong with them. That is why they believe in open borders, transgender for everybody, and men playing in women's sports. And that is why I want ICE, Border Patrol, and our great and patriotic law enforcement officers to focus on our crime-ridden and deadly inner cities and those places where sanctuary cities play such a big role. You don't hear about sanctuary cities in our heartland. I want our brave ICE officers to know that real Americans are cheering you on every day. That's right. The American people want our cities, schools, and communities to be safe and free of illegal alien crime, conflict, and chaos. That's, man, those 3 C's. Nailed it. That's why I have directed my entire administration to put every resource possible behind this effort and reverse the tide of mass destruction migration that has turned once idyllic towns into scenes of third world dystopia. Our federal government will continue to be focused on the re-migration of aliens to the places from where they came and preventing the admission of anyone who undermines the domestic tranquility of the United States. To ICE, FBI, DEA, ATF, and the patriots at the Pentagon and the State Department, you have my unwavering support, says Trump. Now go! Get the job done! DJT. We enjoyed that one. Thank you, Mr. President, for saying that, because it is all absolutely true. And I think really this is an existential crisis for the future of the country. As we've talked about, demographics in many ways are destiny. And if you have 20 to 30 million illegals in the country and they have kids, then you have representation for illegal aliens for the rest of the lifetime of the country, essentially, via their kids by proxy. So that's a concern. And we've seen this happen where illegals now become police officers and now run for state representation, and they get elected to judicial administrative positions in various locations around the country. And in California, they are welcoming them into the fold. And the next step will be to get them the vote. In fact, they're trying that already, to get them to vote in local elections because they're there. They get counted in the census. They get representation in our Congress. So we want our country to be our country, not a country for foreigners. It's our Constitution. It's meant for us, not for the rest of the world. And so the president is explaining that clearly, and we appreciate it. And these sanctuary cities will not find favor in the federal government, nor should they. Secretary Sean Duffy also posted this in response to Trump's truth, said, the U.S. Department of Transportation, we're not going to fund rogue state actors who refuse to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. Why would we? And to cities that stand by while rioters destroy transportation infrastructure, torch freeways, don't expect a red cent from the Department of Transportation either. Follow the law or forfeit the funding. Man, we got some good alliteration today. Forfeit the funding or follow the law. Amazing. Plus Trump's 3 C's down there. Crime, conflict, and chaos of illegals? It's too much. The winning. We see that there are other updates. So a quick summation on what else is happening out there. This is a quick backdoor Dugan update. The judge who tried to have that illegal alien use of the back door of her courtroom saying, we have another hearing coming up this week. So we'll keep our eye on this one. Just a quick roundup on a couple short updates. Wednesday, June 18th, this week, we're going to have another hearing with backdoor Dugan. The court is going to address trial scheduling issues, and they're not going to address the motions to dismiss, which we have read here. So that's going to remain referred to the magistrate judge, and backdoor Dugan is not going to be required this week. We also have a Khalil Mahmoud update. Speaking of people who should be deported, we got this one saying the judge is saying, we're going to keep this dude in custody. Remember, Mahmoud Khalil is the guy who was apparently here on a green card, lied on his green card application, started going to the universities, causing a ruckus. I don't even care what the issue is. If you're here and you're not a citizen and you bring your problems with you here, I don't care if you jaywalk and you're here on a visa. Oh, you're out. Deport him. Why? You just walk. I don't care. Get out. Because we don't want foreign problems coming in here. And if you can't follow traffic laws, then get out of the country. It's that simple. You got to be on your best behavior if you're here because we're overflowing. We don't need all these people coming in here causing additional problems and burdens on our system. Come in here and be a polite guest or get out. Now, the judge has said that Trump can't deport this dude immediately, but the Khalil people are saying that you have to release him if you're not going to deport him. So the judge came back down and said, actually, no, we're not going to let him go. Trump and the administration can keep him in custody pending these proceedings. So here's what this judge said. The court preliminarily enjoined the respondents from detaining Mahmoud on a particular charge, right? So the judge said, I stopped you from detaining him for one charge. And that injunction is in effect, remember. But then Khalil filed a letter this morning saying, well, the government has not represented that he's being detained on anything other than that. Like, Judge, you said they can't use that as a basis. They say that is their only basis. So if that's the case, it would be plainly unlawful to detain Khalil on the charge if the court enjoined Trump from using that charge. But by their letter of this afternoon, says the judge, the Trump administration have now represented that Khalil is being detained on another second charge. And that second charge has not been enjoined. So they can still use that in their detention arguments. Now, as the court noted at some length on May 28th, the petitioner did not put forward factual evidence as to why it might be unlawfully to detain him on the second charge. And Khalil also failed to make meaningful legal arguments as to that second charge. So I was like, oh man. Now, they also say he's not sought appellate review of my prior holdings. And as Trump notes in their letter today, a number of avenues are now available to Khalil, including a bail application to the immigration judge presiding over the immigration case. Now, to the extent that he requests relief from this court, he wants to get out of custody, that request is denied. And so Khalil is going to stay in custody and have to deal with immigration when it is appropriate. So good update there. Now, Tom Cotton was out and was getting into it with, I don't really care, Margaret from Face the Nation. So we'll come back to Tom Cotton, but he dropped this. She asks him a question about this op-ed over in the Wall Street Journal. Tom Cotton said, you know what? Send in the troops. California. For real, though, this time. And I searched for this article and I found Tom Cotton sent almost an identical article back in 2020 where he said, send in the troops, like 5 years ago. It's kind of like a copy paste, but we'll see what he says. When local police can't restore order, because it was 2020, it's like the same thing. Remember that? Like, we have hindsight. So 2020 is also maybe appropriate back then. Trump didn't do that back during the summer of love. So kind of like like history repeats itself. Tom Cotton's like, I already wrote this article. We just redo it. He says, for real this time. When local police can't restore order, we got to get in there and do it. Tom Cotton says, violent insurrectionists turn areas of LA into lawless hellscapes over this weekend. Anarchists set fire to vehicles, threw scooters and debris at cops, and they waved foreign flags, which we know makes my blood boil instantly. Despite the rising chaos, Newsom, whose office likened the riots to the Philadelphia Eagles playoff victory celebration, and Mayor Karen Bass, who also refuses to support federal law enforcement, haven't taken action. Meanwhile, Democrats and liberal media have again called this outbreak of violence mostly peaceful protests, even though police cars set on fire, more than 150 arrests, and more. Now, at the risk of again sending liberals to their fainting couches, which I'm sure they have probably a lot of use on, it may indeed be time to send in the troops. He says, look, let's look at some facts. Biden permitted and even encouraged a slow-motion invasion of America. It allowed murderers, rapists, and other violent illegals to enter our country. In November, America said, we're reversing that. The latest enforcement in LA is rounding up illegals with lengthy rap sheets. According to the DOJ, people who got arrested and picked up were charged with murder, willful cruelty to children, battery, assault. And these are just crimes that we know about. Not to mention the 300,000 missing children, okay, that have been a part of this entire operation. These are specific crimes that are in our radar. What the Democrats are doing is defending the institution, which is also responsible for hundreds of thousands of kids being trafficked. Even their little lover boy, Kilmar, in El Salvador, was trafficking kids in his floorboards. Democrats put such violent illegal aliens ahead of the police, ahead of everybody, law-abiding, ahead of themselves, and legal immigrants whose communities are being terrorized. Now, they say we're terrorizing the illegal gangbangers. It's not the illegals who are terrorizing the children who they're trafficking across our border. And the Democratic Party is willfully complicit in that. Is anyone surprised? Democrats also stood idly by or even celebrated as the BLM riots destroyed our cities. The solution is what I said then, an overwhelming show of force to end the riots, says Tom Cotton. Saying if the Guard can't use order, then we can use active duty troops under the Insurrection Act of 1807. And Trump has taken a measured approach thus far, and we could ramp this up if you want to play. Keep waving those flags around. Let's see what happens. Thus far, Trump has taken a measured approach. Let's hope that the National Guard, federal law enforcement, and local police can restore order before Trump needs to invoke the Insurrection Act. Man, if we invoke it, we better invoke it hard. Hard. I'm not really interested in, and I'd rather we just kind of have a nice peaceful deportation. I think that we could probably just deal with some of the incentives, just tax the remittances back to Mexico, just, fix E-Verify, double down on all the employers, just get rid of all the anchors, get rid of all the public benefits, they'll leave. But if they don't leave and they want to stick around and continue to wave their foreign flags in our country and torch our buildings and wreck our states and streets and our cities and have their elected leaders in Mexico talk about reclaiming and reconquering in the Reconquista huge portions of the southern part of our country, that's a problem. And we've got to do something about that. So we'll see where this goes. Now, these ideas, says Tom, are basic common sense. Yeah, we have a lot of people in Washington who will go to war for other people's borders constantly. Do whatever it takes for other foreign borders. But our own border is being actively usurped and willfully discussed by a foreign power as they wave flags on our streets. And we have a lot of people focused elsewhere, focused on other foreign conflicts. So we appreciate Tom Cotton at least cares about this one, our border. Here's what he said.
I also want to ask you about the enforcement to date. As you know, there has been outcry. We've seen protests across the country because of the enforcement policies. You wrote an op-ed supporting President Trump's decision to send in federalized National Guard troops and active duty Marines to California. You referred to it as the threat from the radical left, an overwhelming show of force to end the riots, and talked about communities being terrorized. Given the amount of tension in the country right now, is that really the language to use?
Margaret?
Yes, when you see left-wing street militias who are throwing bricks and frozen water bottles at police officers and shooting them with fireworks. And unfortunately, you have mayors and governors in some places that won't allow police to maintain order. The next step is to call in the National Guard. And if the governor won't call in the National Guard, then the president has to federalize them. We always hope that the local police are allowed to do their job and have sufficient numbers to do their job to maintain order and protect innocent life and property. But if they can't or they're not allowed to, the National Guard has to be on scene to restore civil order.
Makes sense.
LAPD says they were handling when things turned violent yesterday. They fired rubber bullets, but they said they had it under control.
The LA police chief said last weekend that his forces were overwhelmed and they couldn't manage the situation.
Senator Cotton, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah. And by the way, like her argument of firing rubber bullets, why did they have, but they have it under control. So like they just shot a bunch of people with the rubber bullets and then they all fled and stopped the violence. And so it's all figured out. So as long as LAPD are shooting people with rubber bullets, we don't need Trump's National Guard in there because everything's totally under control according to I Don't Really Care, Margaret. Now, here was this weird person. I think they gave him like a, I don't think that's actually a bat. I don't really know what it is, like a little pole or something. Almost like a paper mache thing. But here's what they were doing over the weekend, because they're so just strange. They had piñatas, and they couldn't even break open the piñatas. They take a couple swings, little guy. Here you go. Go ahead. Go ahead. Take your anger out. Go ahead. Oh no. Oh no. All right, so it's invulnerable. It's a good metaphor for their entire existence. Okay, it's a good metaphor. Just keep swinging, morons. You look pathetic, actually. So in addition to that, they also rallied around a podium, and now they're talking about impeaching Trump. Here's what they said.
You've described what Trump is doing in Los Angeles as lawlessness and unconstitutional and a violation of human rights. Do these things rise to the level of impeachment? Are these impeachable offenses?
Well, you know, I do. I believe it is.
Okay.
I definitely believe it is.
Are you going to file something? It's a nice outfit, man. It's a nice outfit. Yeah, it's good. It stands out in the crowd. What district does she represent? I don't know. But between that outfit and those glasses, it's just a perfect scene. All right, so we've got that. Now, Gavin Newsom was flipping out over Trump's post. He said, whoa, Trump's plan is clear, said Gavi. Incite violence and chaos in blue states. Have an excuse to militarize our cities. Demonize his opponents. Keep breaking the law and consolidate power. What? It's illegal, and we will not let it stand, is what he's saying. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? You have a sanctuary city. You're openly in violation of federal law. Openly. Stephen Miller says, hey, moron, you run a sanctuary state that illegally harbors foreign terrorists who traffic children and willfully perpetuates a criminal invasion of the United States. The government of California does not recognize but willfully and maliciously abrogates the supremacy of federal and constitutional law, and that is not going to stand for long because Trump issued a new directive. Here's what the president said while hanging out in Canada.
I want them to focus on the cities because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and you know, New York and L.A., look at L.A. L.A., those people weren't from L.A., they weren't from California, most of those people, many of those people, and yeah, that's the focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Thank you for that, Mr. President. So we'll keep our eye on this. I'm sure there will be some lawsuit that says we need an injunction for this Truth Social post. Time will bring that to us, no doubt about it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as our coverage of this battle continues. All right, we got one more update, my friends, and then we'll hear from you. Tish James is back now. She is investigating her own local cops. She doesn't like that they might be working with ICE and the president's administration, you know, to enforce the law. So she's actually sent letters to sheriff's offices saying, I want answers from you or else. And the left has gone bananas on this. They're also now trying to pass legislation in California with this big Democrat. He said this, that they're going to now try to ban ICE from wearing masks that protect them from their terroristic foreign gang banging invaders in our country. And we'll come back to that one. But here is the story with Tish, because Tish is probing local cops now. There she is, looking extra tishy, saying a letter from the office of Tish to Oswego County Sheriff called Don Hilton requested any agreements between the sheriff's office and any federal agency that is concerning the enforcement of federal immigration law, right? Tish saying, if you are working with Trump, I want to know about it. asking for documentation about cops receiving training on enforcing federal immigration. The letter cited a section of state law on official misconduct, right? So she's like threatening them essentially. The Attorney General, writes Tish, this is Tish, is conducting an investigation pursuant to New York law and has reasonable cause to believe that the sheriff's office has information relevant to our investigation. They got a letter and it came from Lillian Marquez, Deputy Bureau Chief of the AG's Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office. Lillian Marquez, got it, says the AG demands that the sheriff turn over any documents or information about ICE detainer requests and the detection, apprehension, or detention of people who've allegedly violated immigration law. So you violated New York law. Andy Biggs is going to come up in a minute and tell us, no, you're violating federal law. We have got the supremacy clause. The Attorney General's office is also requesting info about any stops initiated by any member of the sheriff's office. I want traffic stop reports. I want body camera footage, video footage, and camera recordings. All communications between any of the sheriff office staff, any sub-agencies, and they're saying under executive order, Cuomo and Hochul bans law enforcement from investigating, arresting, or deporting illegals, saying law enforcement officers have no authority to do any of this. Here's some person being deported. Have a nice trip. James's office sent a letter June 11th conducting a sweeping inquiry. Sources familiar said there's going to be even more coming in the next days. Hochul and Tish, says Elise Stefanik, are about illegals first. This is a continuation, said Stefanik, of her war against law enforcement, saying she stands behind President Trump and we're not going to put up with this crap. So Andy Biggs called in other sanctuary governors and he was scolding them, saying, by the way, what you're doing is illegal.
I'll answer for you. You do violate the law. You are sanctuary cities. And every one of you sitting there, if you don't know that by now, you should know it walking out of here, that you are actually committing a federal crime every time someone does that. Because you don't have the authority under federal law or under the Constitution to negate even a civil warrant for someone who's violated a federal offense when you get a detainer notice.
Yeah, we can't allow one state in our union to be conquered by foreign invaders and have our politicians absconded by foreign powers and foreign interests, and then allow that state to be a part of the body politique like a cancerous infestation, and then spread the sanctuary cancer to the rest of our country. They're violating the law. We have the supremacy clause for that reason. And now, hopefully, with Trump's new declaration, the pressure is turned up on these sanctuary cities. Another sanctuary city is Chicago. And the mayor of Chicago is coming out, and he had a very interesting new statement today and an interesting rhyme. So as we have this fissure that is now percolating within the Democratic Party in many different ways, Israel and Gaza, and well, I guess the next candidate they're going to have to find. We've got battles between the Bernie wing, the AOC people, the moderates, the progressives, all of them. We've also now got a new rhyme from Mayor Johnson, who is saying it's not a criminal act to support the blacks. Something like that. I think I might have botched that, but let's take it from the rhyme master himself, the mayor.
Our way will bring to black residents in reclaiming ownership of our own communities. That is the spirit of Juneteenth, you all. It is about reflecting on our past. Other cultures are taught to never forget. We need to be reminded as blacks here in Chicago and America, remembering our past and working towards a more just future. Investing in black is not a criminal act.
Oh! Pretty good. Pretty good. Investing in black is not a criminal act.
Sister Zakiya says she need a witness, so I'm gonna say it again. Investing in black is not a criminal act.
She got it better the first time. Hit better the first time. There was a little bit of a stutter that second time, but all right. All right, investing in black is not a criminal act. And if you do something nice for white, that is definitely not right. Something like that, right? Pretty good. All right, so we'll have to work on that. But wow, incredible. Out of Chicago, amazing. Bringing racial unity all across America from the mayor. Now, we also got this large Democrat, big Democrat over there, and Scott Wiener. Scott Wiener is a wild character over there. I think he wants to like have everybody infected with AIDS or something. He passes bills like just infect everybody. Strange stuff coming from him. Harvard Law graduate, though, so that's exactly what you'd expect. And that's what a lot of them look like, too, by the way. So weird dude shows up in the leathers on the pride parades and posts all about it. Strange dude, but like perfect for California. Basically, in many ways, the anthropomorphization of a Californian right there. Anyways, so these two are out here talking about they're going to ban masks for ICE officials in their little dictatorship of California.
Yeah, if I can just elaborate, people covering their faces, impersonating police officers, it erodes trust in law enforcement and it undermines community safety. That's really what this bill is about. And I think many law enforcement officials, legitimate law enforcement officials, would welcome, putting in safeguards to ensure transparency and accountability. And I think the concern is a lot that's happening. There are a lot of people who are engaged in these enforcement actions, and we don't know, are they federal? Are they contractors? Are they local law enforcement? And so we're requiring that people not have to wear masks except for some very limited exceptions, and that there be identifying information ensures that we know who is involved here. It's also critical to uphold our state and local laws, including our sanctuary law, SB 54, which says that local law enforcement are not going to be involved in immigration enforcement. So this is, I think, furthering the state.
Yeah, it's obstruction by California, and these guys are all in on it. I mean, they're fighting on behalf of human traffickers who traffic children. Just to be clear about it, their myth that we've got a bunch of farmers and amazing people who are scholars and PhD barbers and union workers and all that stuff, that is a myth that has to be smashed immediately. What they are doing is defending foreign invaders who are literally waving flags around in our country, who have trafficked, even their own heroes are documented to have been trafficking humans. Kilmar, they went down to visit him in El Salvador. They put him on a pedestal, carried him around on their shoulders for months, trafficking children in his car into the United States, maybe 1,000 times, making $100,000 a year doing it. So that's who they're fighting for. They're not representing the American people anymore, but for some reason, I guess most of their constituents are illegals or illegal adjacent people, so they keep getting reelected. Marsha Blackburn said, as State Senator Scott Wiener has said, he wants to make it illegal for ICE agents to wear face coverings to protect them and their families for doxing. Now, do not forget, targeted attacks on ICE agents are up 413%. This is another shameless attempt to put them in harm's way and ultimately to stop the raids, which is what they want. They don't want foreign invaders to be thrown out of our country. Now, Harmeet Dillon from the DOJ says, hey, Scott Wiener, we're announcing new legislation. And she said, Scott, why don't you go check with a lawyer if this is even a thing? And you can get back to us, Wiener. Hint, it isn't. States can't regulate what federal law enforcement wears. So nice try. And Laura Powell says, yeah, Wiener even went to Harvard, but he just hates the Constitution like the rest of them. All right, so that is from Harmeet. Shout out to Harmeet. And the other thing that they want to continue to forget about, what these guys forget about, is they're fighting for people on the streets who are even shooting and killing people now. So Andy No posted about this. He says, Democrats, they don't want to talk about this in the media. They're all trying to hide details about the homicide that occurred over the weekend in Utah. One of their volunteer peacekeepers, this story's horrible, may have wrongly assumed that an armed radical leftist was a MAGA threat, fired rounds toward him, and killed an innocent bystander who was just walking down the street. I got some footage of it and some videos. Andy No, you can follow him over at No Comment, but it's spelled NGO, AndyNGOcomment.com, NGOcomment.com, says, all right, here's the latest. This dude is not the shooter, let's go through it. The story's been updated. Now, a Latino radical leftist and alleged Antifa supporter has been charged with murder now. This occurred in No Kings protest in Salt Lake City. The person's name is Arturo Gamboa, is a 24-year-old member of the leftist Utah punk-based band called Raid, was apprehended at the scene wearing all black and having a semi-automatic rifle. All right, now looks like he's on the ground there, all black, with a rifle. A No Kings liberal peacekeeper volunteer with bad aim, so not this dude, somebody else, saw him walk up with a rifle, and they tried to take out Gamboa with 3 shots, shooting at him. Instead, fatally shot and wounded a bystander, just killed someone. The peacekeeper, so-called, may have seriously misjudged the situation because it's unclear if Gamboa was actively even posing a threat. Like the guy's just walking down the street with a rifle. The other guy says, "Oh, rifle!" just starts popping off at him. So that happened in Utah. And you can see we've got some footage here, and they're going to show us the beginning part of the shooting, and then it's going to cut to black. But you can see here that the scene looks like this. So right here is the shooter, the so-called peacekeeper right here with the red backpack and yellow vest on. And this is the Gamboa fella who's just walking down the street, right? Just walking down there. You can see it looks like there's a rifle right there pointed down to the ground. He's not pointing it at anybody. Just walking right there, comes upon the scene, and then peacekeeper just starts blasting. I just started blasting. And starts shooting, and then the scene's going to cut to black, right? Because then you'll see that I think what happens is this one of these other bystanders is hit. I don't know who it was, whether it's this dude, or maybe it's this dude right here. But somebody else is just standing there and then just gets executed by this maniac who's just shooting. He's a so-called peacekeeper, just blasting folks, I guess, in the head. So designated peacekeeper. So, I mean, ridiculous. Like, this is happening in Utah. It's happening in California. We've got protests burning down, buildings being torched, federal buildings having their windows smashed in, and now people are dying because of illegal invaders. We also have this other person, and he's going to come in here and scold a Marine for whatever reason. Man berates U.S. Marine in L.A. Here's what he wrote.
Disrespectful. I'm a union man. What skill you trying to get in the Marines? What did the recruiter tell you what job you were going to get? What skill were you trying to get? I'm talking to you.
You work for a union, bro. Don't you lecture a Marine. What union do you work for? Ah, gosh. All right, so pathetic. All right, so that's what they look and sound like. Makes your skin crawl. Now, the truth of this, my friends, this is the truth. And I wanted to share this with you. This came over from Viral News NYC. We cover a lot of his stuff. He posts a lot of stuff from down on the ground in New York. And he said this, you know, as someone who has been on the front lines of the migrant crisis in New York City and broke pretty much every migrant story, gang story in Midtown, and he did. We've covered a lot of his stuff here. I have seen firsthand how many people have tried to hide the truth about the gangs that are involved and how badly they've mishandled this entire situation. To this day, I still can't get people to admit that child trafficking was happening out of some of the migrant shelters, okay? In America, they put them in a shelter. They're trafficking kids out of the shelter in New York, in LA. Some even tried to silence me for speaking out. This is the Democrat Party. These are who they are aligning themselves with, just to be clear. They say that they're not, but that's by the effect of what they're doing is this. So he was sharing this. Rapid Response 47 posted this in a conversation between Tom Homan and Dr. Phil, where Tom Homan is explaining what we're doing here.
Again, it's politics over common sense. They do not want to give Trump administration a win. They don't want to admit that we're fixing what they broke. I mean, even some honest people, I watched a lot of networks, even some honest Democrats, when they get interviewed, what happened? How come you lost? And every one of them say, immigration was a big part of it. So rather than learning a lesson that national security and border security is important, President Trump has turned it around, said the complete 180, most secure border in a lifetime. They can't give him a thumbs up for that. They're not going to give him a win for that. So they're picking politics over public safety. There's no other explanation. I mean, I'm not a stupid man. I wake up every day. Why the hell would you not support taking public safety threats off the street? It's got to be politics. There's no other reason a common sense person doesn't want the laws of this country enforced.
Because it's their avenue to power. It's how they shift the entire country to swing in their direction to give them a Democrat supermajority. And we have this already recorded as an example. We saw what happened with California. Ronald Reagan came from California. Then we had mass amnesty, and now it's a blue hellhole that is a one-party state because of the mass amnesty. And it's hardly ever likely to become Republican ever again until we deport the millions of illegals who have invaded that land thinking it's theirs. And they want that model to be spread across every state in America. All of them can have one-party systems just like California, right? That was the model, and they're trying to spread that around the country. And then if you have that, then you really don't have an America. Then you really don't have a constitution. You have a bunch of people from all over the world, foreign judges, foreign representatives, foreign cops, and America's not really America anymore. It just becomes one big giant economic zone that really is not for anybody. The Constitution is a living, breathing document that changes with the times to be updated to ensure we've got diversity and equality and all this crap. Meanwhile, the Democrats are inviting criminality, and they're committing some of the most disgusting, reprehensible institutions, propping them up in the name of humanity, in the name of diversity, in the name of all these platitudes that mean nothing. We know that they are trafficking humans, drugs, they're killing Americans and abusing children, and the Democrats, like Tish, are investigating the cops who are helping to clean the streets up. You have Kilmar trafficking kids in his floorboards in his car, and FBI agents letting them go. It's a disgusting thing to happen. We've got enemies within our own institutions who are enabling this stuff. A lot of it is demonic and evil. Nobody wants to talk about it or admit it. Instead, they say they're good people waving around their flags on our streets. But the people who are in it, Viral News and others, they know it's trafficking kids. It's trafficking drugs. It's much broader than this, and it's allowed to exist. Has been until now. So we're going to keep our eye on this. Hopefully there's some pressure back against Tish, and she stops investigating her own local cops. We'll, of course, keep our eye on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, what a beautiful day it has been. And if you're just joining us, let's do a quick recap and see what we talked about, and then we're going to hear from you. We talked about Butler. He was Vance, who has been arrested and charged, and we read through the criminal complaint here and the affidavit from FBI special agent called Terry Getch, and it was a wild read, right? This guy, don't know what the hell happened with him, why he went nuts, but he texted his family about it, and then bought an e-bike, and then got on a bus. One of the weirdest cases we've seen recently, where the guy is still alive, and we're going to get to hear more from him and his defense team and see what happens with this. So we'll keep our eye on it, but we covered a lot there, read through his filing request for a continuance, talked about some of the reaction here from the feds, and heard from the state charges as well. Then we turned our attention over to the declaration of war against the sanctuary cities, which is well-deserved. Trump posting this on True Social. We have Sean Duffy saying, we're not going to pay for your burnt down city. You want to burn it down, have a nice life. Tom Cotton saying, we're going to invoke the Insurrection Act, baby. And we got some support in the Senate to do it, to get rid of foreign invaders in our country and secure our border, because it's important. Then we talked about Tishy Leticia, who's being extra Tishified in New York and is going after local cops for doing their jobs, cooperating with federal agents and ICE individuals and sending letters to them demanding answers. Meanwhile, the people they're defending are trafficking kids and shooting random pedestrians on the street. So it's been a doozy of a Monday, my friends, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already done so. We really appreciate that. And thanks for inviting someone back here tomorrow to come join us in the live streams. It's better when we do it together. So have them come on over here, and we appreciate you inviting someone you know or love to come join us. That means a lot to us. We now want to hear from you. Thank you for sending in these amazing super chats, donos. Thank you for supporting our work. Welcome to new membos. I think we got a couple new membos who are joining us. Whoa, we got a bunch of new membos. Bruce Rice Baby. Whoa, Mock Chanel. We got a bunch of membos. It's Monday, my friends. And here's a very yawny kitty yawning away. We're going to have a great week. Wake up there, little kitty. We're going to get those energy levels up. All right, what's up, Mock Chanel? Hey, Mock Chanel. So, Rob, was the Democrat machine doing a denial of service to you? You know, I have no idea. I had everything set up. It takes a little while to like open up all the tabs, all the screens, everything. I'm like, okay, perfect. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Boop. Fires up. Then I get the circle wheel of death. Don't do this to me. Circle wheel. Don't. It did it. So slight delay, but it actually, I think, was easier to, I just, restarted the whole thing, reconnected the tubes, and I think we're back in business. It's been good. So thanks for understanding, Mock Chanel. Hi, Cy. Sev Russ is here. What's up, Sev Russ in the house? We got 5 new membos coming in, courtesy of Sev Russ. You rock, Sev. Thank you for this. Cynthia, what's up? Backseat is here. We got Back for More, Dan Black, and Konaha Jeremiah in the house. Gifted membos, courtesy of Sev Russ. Thank you for this, Sev Russ. And welcome new membo friends. Concert Chick. Hey, Rob, I can't tell you how wonderful it is to hear your voice and see you. Concert Chick. I had a day procedure for kidney stones. I was miserable, but you giving me relief and normalcy. Thank you. Thanks for helping me recover. Concert Chick. It's our honor and our pleasure to be hanging with you while you're recovering from kidney stones. I heard that's kind of a thing, right? Hopefully it wasn't too painful, but it's fun. I was just talking to somebody about that. Friend of mine's father-in-law, I think, has kidney stones. He was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, it's a long thing. It's like I was like, wow, it's pretty interesting. Anyways, so hopefully it went well and your recovery is quick and you're back on your feet, tap dancing around without any worry of kidney stones at all. Concert Chick, thanks for joining us. Rest up, get well soon. We got former LEO. I would like to see Butler's wife charged with conspiracy and felony murder. That's interesting. Do you think she did something? What would be the felony that she was committing that would be connected to the murder? So like felony murder, the common example you get in law school on that would be robbing a bank, getaway driver stays in the car, 3 dudes leave the car, go in, rob the bank, someone dies in the bank robbery. One bad actor shoots and kills a bank teller. All 4 of them, come back in the car, getaway driver takes off. Can the driver be charged with murder? Answer, yes, felony murder, because they were involved in the commission of a felony. The felony that he was involved in committing wasn't a murder, it was a bank robbery, but in the commission of the felony, which is bank robbery, somebody died, therefore that pins on you. So what would the wife be doing that was a felony? You're allowed to drive around with your kids and your passports and cash and guns. This is America. So what was she doing? Was she aiding? We have Nancy says she was aiding somebody. We need some more evidence to see that, right? Maybe she was. We'll see. What's going on? Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for bringing in 50 new membos. Let's welcome them in. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Gary Beatty. Gus Swayze. What's up, Decline Management? Styles Slay. We got Snuggle Struggle. David H. What's up, Blue Skies? North Watch. Peggy Kane. Rebecca Koo. The Red 11. Just Mojo. What's up, William Roche? Josh Cantor. Kelly 911. We got Michael Myers, Jen Griffin, Richard Waring, John Carter, Lazy Llama, Bob Grizzly, Diana Peterson, Aducci's mom, Marie said, Palmy Co-Prepper. We got Morning Custom Creations, Tiff Buck, Manor Nose, It's-a-me. It's-a-me. We got Newport Marina, What's Up Nate, DeFreak, Marque, Holmesy Maker, Stacia, Texas Caddy Did, Cindy Klein, E-Dubs, Kat, Tanya, Crazy Girl, What's Up Nostra, Docus, Nate is here. Duff Freak, Marquis Lundgren. What's up, Holmes Maker? Stacia, Giant Golem, Jack Riley, Robin Williams, Andrew Wonder, Robert Doyle, Jeff Lancaster, Scott Free, and D. Paul, all gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. And welcome 50 new membo friends. We'll see you in the morning. And have a great stream. And grab the stream from this morning. We had a good stream this morning, too. The Real Encryptus. What's up, The Real Encryptus? Looks like over on Rumble, raiding us over there. Good to see you, The Real Encryptus. Thanks for doing that. Shell, what's up, Shell? Welcome aboard as a new membo. See you tomorrow. And in the after party. Membo, stick around for the after party, too. Doan, what's up? We need to address the mental illness epidemic. Yeah, that's a tall order. Yeah, that's a big one. Got a lot of it going on in this country. Relantel, hey, thanks for all you do, Rob. Almost to that second baby. You are 8, 9. Yeah, okay. So 16. Yeah, okay. Thanks for all you do. Almost to that second baby. 16 months as a member. Thank you, Relantel. Got to get a calculator for that. Hey, Belter fits the Manchuria candidate profile to a T. No doubt, don't. Yeah, I mean, like literally, like he went over to the Congo, probably got that chip inserted, came back, just starts executing everybody. Just like what they did with Thomas Matthew Crooks, too. Hey, Rice Baby. Bruce Rice Baby. Thank you, Bruce Rice Baby. For bringing in 50 new membos. Thank you, Bruce. Look who's here. Mary W45. What's up, Miranda Carey and Liberty Jack. Aaron Six Killer. Amanda R. Colleen, all my friends. Number 3. Leslie Thompson. Carol Myers. What's up, Kathy K155. Lee Smith. Sherry Super. We got Dottie. Shannon Vans. Texas Mom. Kin J. Emmy Andrews. Scotty Boy. Torin Harris. Sam JD, Shane Coffer, Ryan E, Linda SC, what's up, Larry 20, Kev Mill, Salty Mamas, Median Dev, Sega Sonic, Chicken McNug, Dirt Bike is here. We got Christina E, Lord of Strangeburg, Hammer's here, Rod Bollinger, Barbecue Sauce, Diane, you don't need to know, Patriot Texas Pants, what's going on, Sequoia Brown, Night Court, Ice Sickle YouTube, Chris Siskator, K-Bear, Stephen Bunt, we got Craig L., Larry Putnam, Jersey Girl, Hope Miller, Brad S., Apothecary, we got Sarah DeMarco, Soul Palace, and Jackson Star, gifted membos, courtesy of Bruce Rice Baby. Thank you, Bruce, for doing that. And 50 new membo friends, welcome aboard. We'll see you all in the after party. And thank you for bringing in so many new membos today. We're excited. Hey, Denise Vaccaro. The local police let that poor woman and her husband die. They need to be charged right now. They saw him arriving at her house. Honestly, I think they think that it sounds like they all thought he was a cop. Both of them, right? The woman who showed up when he was on the side of the road and the other cops. Like, I don't know, was it a cop walking in there? Then he starts popping off. Then there's gunshots going back off. They go, what the hell? They race out there and they're dead. That dude's gone. Probably thought he was a cop. It's like, I know. Knox, happy Monday, all. Good to see you, Knox. Knox is a defense attorney in Texas. Hey, all. Another mysteriously unemployed guy who can afford a $500,000 house, travel to Congo, afford high-end weaponry and instrumentalities of a crime, says, man, I need to do better budgeting, I guess. Yeah, it's also weird. It's like Thomas Matthew Crooks, the Butler shooter, was doing weird stuff, traveling back and forth to do shooting and stuff like that. Ryan Ruth, the other Trump assassin, was going to Ukraine, remember, and flying back and forth, all these trips. Customs let him come and go. Weird stuff. What's this dude doing over in the Congo? And then decides to just come over and and now people are dead. Yeah, people are dead. Chat with me says, Rob, my 4-year-old granddaughter is reprimanding you. You said, what the heck? And she yelled, we don't say that around here. I love you, Rob, but little ears are listening. Heck, I thought that was like the PG version. What's the G-rated version for the H word? I don't know. What, the H? I have to shout out to your granddaughter, and we apologize for offending her perfect, innocent ears, and we'll do better. And we have been reprimanded appropriately. NY says, a few people showed up. One thing I noticed, not too many African Americans though, very telling on the strength of this No Kings movement. No Kings is an Antifa black bloc wet dream. Antifa. Yeah, well, that's always been interesting to me. The Democrats treat people like trading cards, as we've talked about, and they have them in hierarchies and they cobble them together and they create their constituencies with a lot of basically subclasses of people. And they just take all the letters and they just mash them into one word. LGBTQ, XBI+, expialidocious, blah, blah, blah. And they create a coalition of that. So when the coalition starts to break apart, like, for example, with the Israelis and the Palestinians, right? There's kind of a fissure in the Democratic Party. What do? They're having a real difficult time with that. Same thing with Hispanics and blacks. Going to have a difficult time with that, I think, as we're starting to witness. So will that continue or not? I don't know. Now, they've always tried to do this with us, right? They try to wage war. White people are, not us, I mean, like all of us here are like all white, but I'm just saying with like the white constituency or Republicans even, they'll say to Republicans, white is bad. Well, just like what we saw, like from Mayor Johnson. Some groups need to be positioned. The white patriarchy is the problem, and all the other, classes are the solution. And so we need to be down with the white patriarchy and elevate. This is equity. This is diversity. And at some point, you can't give everybody everything. Like they promise everybody everything. And I've always wondered the same thing. It's like why is the African American community not, infuriated at the Democratic Party, who is showing more favor to a foreign invasion force rather than to that constituency that has been a part of the Democratic Party for generations? I don't know. Doan, Kristi Noem snaps back at oppressor. So which laws do you think I should and shouldn't enforce? This is a nation of laws. Well, they want you to not enforce the laws that are good for them. The laws that are bad for them, you definitely should not enforce, right? If it's bad for them, do not enforce that law. King of Biltong, what's up? Get your Biltong. You know who King of Biltong is. Website over there is biltongusa.com, and he set up a promo code for our fam here, code Robert at checkout. What's going on, Biltong? We got Rub Some Dirt on it. Says, here's a fainting couch. All the Democrats, ICE is here. Gosh, typical. Doan, lefty firing up its mob for second phase of deports. Nice, good. That's good. Hopefully they got extra room. NY says, I have one response to my Governor Newsom. It's called French Laundry, Gavin. Says, literally last month, they wanted to pass a law ensuring people the right to wear masks in public. NY says, with the state senators trying to ban federal officials wearing masks, tells us the left is officially bought into the doxing. We are a few steps away from open rebellion from those people. Time for Trump to swoop in and take control. Good to see you, NY. Keith Jones, what's up, Keith Jones? Welcome aboard. Thanks for becoming a membo. Signing up over on the YouTubes. We'll see you on the after party when you hit the refresh button in a minute. Chubby says, I've been waiting for the connection between Belter and BlackRock to come to light. It's another good one. I've not heard, he'll show up in a commercial like Ruth did, or Crooks, I think, was in the commercial. I've not heard anything to support this, just my own suspicion given his connection to Walls and the very vague mentions of his security work overseas. Yeah, and like, was the guy just trying to cosplay a security person or something? I don't know. Interesting takes. Hard to psychoanalyze just a psychopath if that's what he is. Harold Greer, what's up? Charles Ross became a membo. Thank you, Harold, for bringing in 5 new membos. You rock. Nicola Nybert is here. RM. We got Johnny Tambourine coming in, and Paula. All gifted membos, courtesy of Harold. Thank you, Harold Greer, for doing that. We got ELZ. What's up, ELZ? Assassins dressed as cops is how the St. Valentine's Day massacre went down, from ELZ. Yeah, that's interesting. Good one there. Thank you, ELZ, for that one. And Doan says, Walls was the only governor whose state isn't a sanctuary state. Ours are targeting him for his incendiary rhetoric, which is a good call now that Belter went off. Yeah, and we saw that this morning from Amy Klobuchar. She's like, this is not a joke. This is serious. Turn your rhetoric down. From Amy Klobuchar. It's like, your people are in the streets burning down buildings and torching Waymo cars. That's your constituency. And your Senator Van Hollen just went down to go have margaritas with Kilmar, a human trafficker. So spare me your rhetoric, okay? Your people are revolting and rebelling because we're enforcing federal law. So how about you tell your side to tone it down and comply with the law if you want to settle things down? All right, so my friends, thank you for those very nice donos. Very generous of you. Excited to meet our new membos and to hang out. We're going to do our after party, so stick around if you are a membo. We're going to tune out of the show with our song, and then we're going to hit the refresh button, and we'll hang out and we'll debrief in our after party. And so you two membos and locals, stick around. But that is where we will leave it on the day, my friends. It has been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done so. And of course, thank you to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Big shout outs to John Donut, Mind Me, modding the fort down for us. Carrie B, K Bean doing the same. We want to thank Neuro D, Dog Digger, Janek over on the Rumbles. Shout outs to Geegum, Geegum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot. Everyone who helps make this show so beautiful and nice and orderly. We appreciate you. But my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day, of course. It's a beautiful Monday. We're going to have a jamming week together. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of the Watcher fam. We're coming back tomorrow, and we're going to get into it again. But in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together